Hey y'all, I'm Courtney.
And I'm Sarah.
And this is Bodice Tipplers.
The podcast where we read all the books we used to steal off our grandmother's nightstands.
And then we drink about it.
On this episode, we read Nora Roberts' first book, Irish Thoroughbred. This book includes attempted rape and some romance novel style, grabby man, throwing her around, but in a very romance novel context. It also has
a lot of dead relatives.
Some Darby O'Gill Little People accents.
Yes. Top of the morning to you. Everyone talks like this. That's from Ireland.
Did you know that Ireland is still stuck in the potato famine?
Oh my gosh. Yes. Oh goodness. The Blarney. We hear Blarney a lot.
Did you know that all Irish people are redheads?
Yes, and they look good in green.
Oh, well, a redhead does look good in green. I had to admit.
So another trigger, if you're triggered by the word Blarney.
She actually says the word Blarney.
Oh, shit.
Complete, just...
Oh, you got the Blarney. There's the Blarney in you. You got the Blarney.
She tells these children about the little people.
The little people.
We leave out milk for the little people.
Ah, the leprechauns.
Oh,
they come and they take your bacon. So...
Jesus Christ.
I'm going to keep doing it. All right, so let's buckle up, bitches, for Irish Thoroughbred. Irish Thoroughbred. It's kind of hard to do with Thoroughbred.
Yeah, Thoroughbred.
Thoroughbred. It was more of a Scots song. You thrubbed a little, like any of these is any good. So
I know.
People are going to be like, oh God, I'm turning it down.
We'll just go Outlander. It'll be fine.
Oh, our other spoiler is our other trigger warning is that we're wearing headphones for the first time.
We're practicing for our first remote podcasting that we're in charge of.
Yes.
So we don't know what we're doing.
No. More so than usual. Yes. More so than usual.
Yeah. Hers are pink. Big surprise.
I love my pink headphones.
Yeah. Mine are the same ones that Metallica uses in the studio.
Well then, all right.
I got them for my husband for his birthday.
That's very nice.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not just Metallica; it's everybody. But I was really excited when I got them for him before I had given to him, and then we were watching Some Kind of Monster, and it was the same headphones, and I was like. But I couldn't say anything because I hadn't given him the headphones yet. And I was like, they said that these were the big studio headphones, but they really are.
Very excited for you.
Yeah. Anyway.
All right, so let's see.
What are we drinking?
I am drinking a rosé Côte d'Aron. I got it because it was on sale, and I like a bargain. So.
Well, I guess that's Scottish people.
I don't know. I feel like we might be venturing into some negative stereotypes that are happening. We also had, that's what we have. I was I could get Jameson. See, in this household, because my husband is Irish Catholic, we're very hardline. I thought about just bringing Bushmills home just to piss him off.
Oh, doers, dude. Do a blended.
He doesn't. No, it's the Protestant Catholic thing. We're very anti Bushmills. He won't go into bars if there's a Bushmill sign. So it's a whole wild world.
So no melting pot in the Rounds family.
No. All right. What are we reading? What are you reading? You reading anything?
I'm only reading books for this podcast. Well, that's not true. I'm reading that dinosaur artist book about the true it's a nonviolent true crime about smuggling bones out of Mongolia. It's really cool. But
that is cool.
Courtney got me onto... See, I was super into anime back in high school in that early period where you just got whatever there was at Blockbuster, but then, into, yaoi fanfic about anime in, the late 90s, early 80s.
I don't understand any of what you're saying.
I know you don't, but, Shoujo Kakame Utena, it turns out that we have, fans of that also in our
That's super fun.
It is super fun, and you would not like it at all.
No,
so I've been, so Courtney's got me into the sports stuff, so I'm super into Run with the Wind right now.
It's so good, and I wish that the book would be because it's based off a book.
Mm-hmm. It's not translated.
Yeah, it's not translated. Her other one, The Great Passages, and I might pick that one up, but I really like Run with the Wind.
They're so supportive. They love each other.
Oh my God, I love it so much because it's just bros loving each other and lifting each other up.
But somehow they have no running injuries, even though they only started running 3 months ago.
It is hilarious.
And their times are insane.
I am reading The Ghost Bride by Yangzi Shu. And I started reading it because on Netflix they had, they made a drama of it. And I was like, this looks like, it was like if you took The Cure and The Crow and rub some glitter on it, I was like, this is amazing.
Yeah, I heard that was good.
It was really good. So I decided to read the book, and basically it's about this girl, Leland, who lives in the 1890s in Malaya, and she kind of like, it's one part supernatural, one part romance. So her character, her dad's fallen on hard times, and this family makes an offer for her to be the ghost bride of their like recently deceased son. And at first she's like, no, I'm not going to do this. But then like she gets sucked into the underworld. And so like she's having to like, he's the recently deceased son is breaking all the rules of the afterlife. And she and one of the guardians from heaven kind of team up, and they're going to bring him down. So it's got a caper and a little bit of romance. So.
You do love a caper.
I love a caper and I love a romance, and it's really good. And I think I liked about the Netflix series was like, you know, they didn't like make it English speaking, so it's really good, and you should check it out. I enjoyed it. It's got a very cool, like, the underworld aesthetic to it is awesome. It's very stylish.
I would like to do that. I've been doing a lot of knitting that is TV knitting, so I don't have to pay attention to it as much. So that's why I've been able to watch sports anime of all things. Now, I did back in the day watch like Initial D just because of the seiyuu in it, the voice actors, because I wanted them to fuck.
Oh, the thing too I like about like the thing with Run with the Wind, and then the new one I'm watching, it's like got a lot of the same people doing the music, and it's like little bops. Like I'm like, the other day I went running, I was like, let me put on this Run with the Wind music. It did not make me any faster. So,
well, okay, sure. Normally we would say about the author at this point, but if you don't know who Nora Roberts is, I'm a little confused as to why you are listening to our podcast.
Basically, she's like the OG. She's the person.
I will tell you about her something, just a little bit, okay? Just a little bit.
Oh, I don't care. It's just crack me upstairs like, I'm not drinking tonight.
Well, I went to dinner with my mother, so I was already preloaded a little bit. We got 2 to do tonight, though, so I need to have some fuel. The thing that I just learned about Nora Roberts in the past month or so, though, considering this RWA thing, is that she quit the RWA years ago after, like, they put up a bunch of homophobic stances.
Yeah.
Like, and she was a big person, of course, in the RWA. She was a sponsor of them, and she's like, fuck you guys. So Nora Roberts can stay. She can get a plate. But this is actually her first book.
Yes.
Her very first book, and it shows.
It just, you can see, like, her really good writing is there. It's just not, like, I don't know, there were parts of it that I was like, all right, like, I'm bopping along with it.
Yeah, but then it would be like,
Yeah, there's a lot of problematic stuff.
So we have actually a very funny edition of this. It's called Language of Love, and what it does is it assigns flowers to each of these books.
Oh, God.
And so we had already read Guardian Angel, which is in this, and it has the flower of wisteria. Gabriel's angel, and which is funny because it's invasive.
Yeah.
And it will just like get all over your shit, and this is actually Lily of the Valley, which indicates return of happiness.
Very precious.
So you want me to read the back?
Yes, go for it.
Okay. One horse breeder, Travis Grant, agreed to bring his trader's niece to America. He expected a sweet Irish lass, not a hot-tempered spitfire with an independent spirit. I can't help the thing. From the moment he met her, Travis was determined to tame Adelia, but soon it was clear that winning Adelia's heart, not just her hand, was where his happiness lay.
God.
At least it's not long.
That's true. It's not one of these that gives us like 15 paragraphs
and that tells the entire story of the book, and in somehow in a more boring way than even the book.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, that's pretty much it. This is quite short. It is, how long is it? It's just like 217 pages.
Yeah.
She was a baby, obviously, when she wrote this. This is 1981.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. I was a baby, too. By which I mean, like,
you were a baby?
A baby.
Yeah, It's crazy because, like, to think about what she is now, you know?
She can buy and sell many medium-sized countries.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, anybody can do it, you know? You can start off with this.
It's very, very cool.
Yeah, it is cool. So Courtney has a special treat for you.
Yeah, so we're going to have 2 little divide-up things going on. So I married into a big, like, horse racing family. I mean, they don't race horses. That would be amazing. And then all I would have to do is just, like, podcast for fun. Like, if I had horse racing money, like, that'd be, like, the best.
I figure most of that is actually in debt money.
That'd be, like, the most fuck you money ever.
It's not
so
real
anyway,
money. It's fake money.
Some of it is, some of it's not.
Depends.
Like, yeah.
Depends.
So my husband's family is from upstate New York, and they live about 40 minutes away from Saratoga. So they're very much like Saratoga purists. Like whenever people are like, oh, Churchill Downs, like they're like, fuck you, that place is garbage. It's not the oldest place. Like they get, they're Saratoga National Racetrack people. So every year we have to go to Saratoga, and we go and we spend like a day or 2 days, and they're very serious about it. Like Christopher, my husband, his grandmother is the one that taught him how to handicap horses. There was another day, like
with a hammer?
Yes. Like there was another time where my brother-in-law, David, when he was young, had gone with her to Saratoga, and he wasn't feeling good, and she just told him to go lay in the car. Like, and he was a child. He was a small child.
We're here to fucking win some money.
Yeah, so my husband will be on, and he is going to talk to us a little bit about horse handicapping, because they talk about it in this for like a hot minute,
more than they talk about any of the races.
Yeah, so
hilariously, here in South Carolina, we do have horse racing, but it's really a drinking game.
Yeah.
It's not really a horse racing game. Like my mom went when she was pregnant with me to the Carolina Cup.
Yeah.
And oh my God, all the girls like get their finest Lily Pulitzer on to go to the Cup. And so she goes and she's like, okay, so where's the horses? And everybody looks at her like she grew a second head. Like, you don't go to the Cup to see the horse race.
They actually got rid of that. They got rid of the College Park.
I heard that because, because of the hospital time required.
My friend's, one of my good friends, his uncle is a judge in Camden, and so occasionally he has to
That's where this is it.
He has to be like the traveling judge, because they basically court them. Like if you get like they just have like horse race court right there. So we'll go to the Cup, and he's like, "Well, I got to go do horse race court now."
Well, the thing is, it should be a cool race. I've never actually been. I do own a Lily Pulitzer dress though.
I've been several times.
It's a steeplechase.
Yeah, my friend's family has like their own, like, you own a parking spot that's like handed down, so, and it's really close.
It's like tailgating times 1,000.
Oh my God, I love it.
Yeah,
so
it's
much.
like tailgating for a football game, but way more so.
Yeah.
And my favorite thing is when it rains, and there's always these pictures of the state of all these like people in their linen, just like you know, covered in mud, and it's beautiful. But the horse race is actually really interesting, but nobody goes to see the horse race.
Well, I mean, people like. You have, like, it's divided up. So you have the college people that used to go, but now they've taken that part away. And then you have, like, the families and, like, people who are...
They're actually horsey set.
And that's where, like, I end up is, like, with the people who are, like, old Camden families that have spots.
My poor mother was pregnant, and so she could not... You don't go to the Cup and not be able to drink.
Yeah.
I don't care how much you're there to see the horse race. Like, why would you do that?
Exactly, because you can't bet on it there. Like, because betting's illegal.
I bet you can bet on it.
Well,
I will bet you can bet on it.
Well, what we do is, like, everybody does, like, unofficial things, but it's not like with, like, in New York, there's NIDA, the New York Race Association, or NYRA, like, making all the money. So there's nothing, like, officially sponsored. Like, what we'll do is, like, we'll just take the horses' names and, like, just divide it up and, like, just put, like, $1 in a pot kind of thing. So you can get unofficial stuff, but, like, you're not getting anything state sanctioned. And it's one of the reasons, like, in South Carolina, like, horse racing is dying.
Yeah, because there's no reason to do it.
Yeah, there's no reason to do it here, so...
But anyway, so you were talking about our fun extra things, and I had to break in about our
oh no, it's fine. Yeah, so
with ponies.
So Christopher Rounds is going to be on and talk a little bit about horse racing in general, because if you come to my house,
it is very Saratoga.
Yes,
there's a lot of things.
All of the paintings above my fireplace are horse race paintings. So. Again, I know a lot about horse racing just by osmosis. I've seen a horse die at the track, so...
You will if you're there for enough, yeah.
Hey, y'all. So, this is our very special gambling episode subset, because we're talking about Nora Roberts, Irish Thoroughbred. So... We have used my brother-in-law, David, and his amazing Saratoga racetrack stories. So we're going to talk to my husband, Christopher, about handicapping horses and betting. So we're sitting here with the king of Surly himself. He looks not happy to be here. He is here under duress, Christopher Rounds.
But he can't go anywhere else because
he cannot. He's quarantined. So
first of all, about 50% of the things my brother says are complete fabrications.
Yeah, he doesn't.
There is no way a person who lived these things could be alive and functioning in 2020.
Yeah, but he tells good stories. So
there's just enough a kernel of truth there that you have to believe him. But
okay.
there is no way.
It's all true. Don't talk about David. David's my favorite. Anyway, so
David's your favorite because he makes fun of me. He joins in your bullying.
Fair enough. So, all right. So, how did you get into betting on horse racing?
Well, that's a deep question. I mean, the genuine answer is at my grandmother's. You know, we grew up pretty close to Saratoga, New York, pretty much the mecca of thoroughbred racing, and they had gone up there for years and years. And so when I would spend time with my grandmothers, instead of, coloring in a coloring book, she would teach me how to handicap horse racing.
So was it both your grandmothers or one in particular?
Both of them loved Saratoga. My grandmother on my mother's side was the one who taught me how to handicap, although it was a grandmother on the other side who actually... Don't be bothered by Sarah. She's slowly
dying.
She's slowly dying.
Yeah. It's very picturesque.
This is very timely because maybe we'll all get our $1,000 from the government, and we can use that. We can gamble it away as we die.
All right. So, what is your earliest memory of being at the track?
Oh, I don't know what age I was. I was probably maybe 12, 13 years old. Mm-hmm. I know by 14 I was serious into looking at the racing form and analyzing the charts and coming up with a statistical analysis. I had a whole formula that I developed that has been modified.
Like a guy in a mystery who runs a hotel. That's how you know, if it's a sleazy hotel, if the guy's looking at the racing form.
So, okay.
Or the white Jewish character played by Eddie Murphy in Coming to America, who hangs out in the barbershop reading his racing form. So it was, yeah.
Okay, so we'll get into actually handicapping in a minute. But you worked at Saratoga for a year, a summer, right?
I did.
So what was that like?
That's a boring story.
Why did you just stop? Because
I was just a person who sat at the gate
45 minutes away from your house. Why did you want what was it about Saratoga that you wanted to work there?
Well, all the Generation Z listeners, I don't think you have any of those.
We do.
They don't even work summers anymore.
The youth like us.
But you're supposed to, as a young person, have awful summer jobs.
Right.
That motivates you to go back to campus and get a damn degree or go to trade school and learn a skill. So compared to the alternatives, being at my favorite place in the world was a pretty good option. Plus, you would also be done about 2/3 into the day. So if you wanted to, you could hang around and watch the last 3 or 4 races. Maybe, place some bets, too, at the same time, so.
So could you bet on them? Because I know, your Aunt Kim, who works for the state, can't bet, because, it's Naira.
No, they're, if we weren't supposed to, they didn't. Okay. We were, I think we were employees of Saratoga, not Naira.
Okay.
Because Naira goes to all the other tracks throughout the year. But if...
So NYRA stands for New York Racing Association.
They didn't do anything.
Because New York understands a moneymaker, it's a state thing. And so, if you work for the state, I think there's, rules and stipulations about placing bets. All right.
Trust me, people, I have tried to game the system. I have tried to find ways to bet online here in South Carolina. But what they do is they actually look at the IP address of your computer. So you can't use my parents' permanent home address in New York. Yeah,
There's gotta be a VPN.
All right, so give us a quick give us the dummy's guide to like, I'm going to the track and I don't want to just bet on the horse's name. Like, what am I looking at?
Well, before I do that, let me give a shout out, since this is a Lady Parts podcast, to Julie Crone, the greatest female jockey of all time. She is to this day the only woman who has won a Triple Crown race. She won the Breeders on Colonial Affair. I believe it was 1990, but if you fact check me and I'm off a year, don't come at me too hard.
Okay.
Okay, so there are three central things that I look at when I handicap. I look, of course, at the jockey. And a jockey can make a average horse good and can make a good horse great. The best jockey in the world, if he's on a nag, he can't turn it into Secretariat. But when you're dealing with a sport where fractions of a second can mean the difference, a jockey who knows just how to maneuver his horse, how to get the last little inch out of that horse at the finish line can mean the difference. So I look at the jockeys, look at their record, look at their success at that particular track. And that's the first thing I look at. The second thing I look at is past performances. Each racing guide will give you like the last 10 races that a horse ran. And of course, if it ran less than that, it will give you, whatever their experience is. And I look at the last 3 races in particular. How this horse has run recently. Just like with a human being, the most recent performances kind of give you a sense of how that horse is here and now. You don't want to look at what the horse was doing 2 years ago when it was a different creature at a different age. Horses get old, just like people. Horses go on hot streaks, just like people. You do have to make sure that you're looking at races that are about the same level as the race that you are about to bet on. So if the horse ran in the Kentucky Derby in its last race, but now it's running against a bunch of nobodies, then you kind of have to give the horse the benefit of its dropping down in class. It's going to do better against this kind or caliber of horse than it did in the Kentucky Derby. So one of the general rules I have is that if the horse has not finished in the top 3 in the last 3 races, I usually don't consider it. That's just my personal rule. Not everyone abides by that, but that's usually a way to kind of eliminate the horses who aren't there to win. Not all horses are there to win. That's an important part of handicapping. If you have 10 horses in a race, probably 5 of them are not really going to have a serious shot at winning that race. And the third thing that I look at what the horse's time was the last time it ran at that distance. Horse races are all different distances. 6 furlongs, a mile and a quarter. Some horses are sprinters, do well in the shorter races. Some horses do better in the long distance races. Again, just like people. Now that can be difficult because sometimes not all the horses have raced at that distance, especially if you are dealing with younger horses, 1 or 2 years old, who don't have a lot of experience yet. So that's an imperfect measure, but if you have some established horses with experience, you can usually find a distance at which they have all run, and you can kind of compare times. You have to look at the conditions that day. Was it perfect out? Was it rainy and muddy? They will tell you in the racing guide if the horse got bumped or if it got stuck behind other horses. There's a whole slew of things to consider. But getting the time that a horse ran the last time out at that distance, you can kind of measure against each other Again, it doesn't always work out, but when you do, it's a real asset.
So, do you have an all-time favorite horse?
There's a horse called Coronado's Quest. Coronado's Quest was nicknamed the Bad Boy of Racing. He was amazing. I saw him win his maiden, break his maiden. That's breaking your maiden is when you win your first race. Mm-hmm. I saw that horse do that at Saratoga and followed that horse throughout his career. He was very, very tempestuous. He later fell off, and when they looked at it closely, they realized that one of the reasons why he was so, let's say, emotional is because he had, I think, some health problems. And that was one of the reasons why he was so difficult to control. And then injuries beset him later in his career. But for a brief year or so, Coronado's Quest was just fantastic. My favorite two horses, though, all time. One is called the Hare. The Hare was named after the basketball player Terry the Hare, of all things. And what I loved about the Hare is that in the last 50 yards of a race, he would come out of nowhere and he would run like he had afterburners in his hindquarters. I mean, he would just explode almost in an, obviously it's an unhuman way, but almost an unequine way. It was just unbelievable to watch this horse close, and I love a closer. And the Hare is really tied with a horse called Victory Gallop. Victory Gallop, I could go into the races he ran, but most people probably wouldn't know what the heck I'm talking about, so I won't bore you with it. But Victory Gallop would be 20 lengths behind the leader about halfway through the race. When you saw the camera shot, he wasn't even in the camera shot. He would be so far behind. And then with about a quarter of the race to go, he would just come out from the back of the pack and just come stampeding. And he would just carve through the field, shocking people as he would make up all the distance and win. And again, I know there's people out, I could specify races, but you're not going to go to YouTube and watch them like I would. But I guess you could, go to YouTube and put Victory Gallop, and it's probably going to have some of the highlights. But Victory Gallop, the Hare, Coronado's Quest. There are some others, of course, but those are the ones that come to mind right now.
I just want to point out that is far more passion than anybody in the book Irish Thoroughbred, who are people who are racing horses, has for any of their fucking horses.
Well, that's fine because they are owed money, who are,
they're also ridden by people
they are people who got rich because they were oppressing my ancestors.
Do you have a favorite? Okay, so I have a couple more questions. Who's your favorite jockey? Or who's your favorite? Who's your favorite owner and who's your favorite jockey? Because they're different things.
My favorite owner is Nick Zito, and Nick Zito is my favorite owner because Nick Zito is kind of this. I don't know what his childhood was, but he's an Italian guy, obviously Italian American. He's from, I think, Brooklyn or the Bronx. If he's not from Brooklyn or the Bronx, he talks like he is. He has this working class ethos. Obviously, this guy has been very, 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 very wealthy for very, very, very long.
Right.
So I don't know but whatever it is, he, more than any other, did you say owner? Because he's not an owner. I'm sorry, he's not an owner. He's a trainer.
I'm sorry,
he's
trainer.
A trainer.
I should do trainer.
Nick Zito is a trainer. But for whatever it's worth, he just seems like he's more of a blue collar, man of the people guy. Jockey is a tough one. I can definitely tell you who my grandmother's favorite jockey is. My grandmother's favorite jockey was Angel Cordero, who was, I think they called him the Sultan of Saratoga during the 80s because he would always be the number one rider. Man, I like weird ones. I like a guy named Robbie Davis. that had to do with a kind of a heartbreaking Sports Illustrated story I read about him. But whenever I'd bet on him, he would do well for me. I don't. There's not one besides that comes at the top of my head. I could start naming names, but I'll just go with Robbie Davis.
So, 30-second elevator, like, why? Okay, so if we're looking at a Triple Crown race, because in the book that we read...
I was going to say...
The book that we read, they took the horse out.
I was going to do this. Okay, let's say that there is no injury at hand. There's no particular horse-related reason to do this. To dunk on this stupid book. How stupid would it be had you won the Kentucky Derby and you just skip the Preakness and go to the Belmont?
Well, that would never happen.
No.
I tell you what might happen. If a horse won the Kentucky Derby or the Preakness, it might skip the Belmont because the Belmont is a much longer
they all blow it in the Belmont.
And so a lot of horses who don't run in the Kentucky Derby or the Preakness will run in the Belmont. And they have a pretty good record of winning because they're specialized for long-distance races. And also because, as some people think, it's because they're rested. And because they haven't run those two races, I think that's kind of stupid. There's like a month and a half between these races.
And it does make a certain amount of sense that, like, what you have once you won the Derby is very valuable sperm that you don't want to risk.
Yeah, well,
you would never skip the Preakness.
I don't know of any horse having won the Kentucky Derby who skipped the Preakness
to go to
without there being a reason.
Yeah.
Like Sarah
Without
said,
an injury or something
injuries, that happens often. Or if there's some other extenuating circumstances. Again, I'm sure there have, because this sport's been going on for like 150 years until now, because the Kentucky Derby, as we sit here, has been postponed to September, which means that my wife does not have to sit watching me get sloppy drunk at Mint Juleps.
That's true.
Next month. That would have to be some kind of bizarre. You would never skip the Preakness to go to the Belmont. That just doesn't make any sense.
So 3 more questions, I guess. I guess my other question is okay. So you've never been to the Kentucky Derby. You've been to Churchill Downs.
I've been to Churchill Downs.
And
I've been to.
You have opinions about
the Belmont.
You have opinions about Churchill Downs. Like
Churchill Downs is a dump. It's first of all, it's tiny. When you see Churchill Downs on TV, it looks magisterial with the twin spires. And when you're there, they're just so puny.
Yeah.
And nothing against Louisville. I actually like Louisville as a city, but it's not in the best area. And the paddock area and where you place your bets and everything, it's all kind of just. It looks like a bad mall. It's just. Yeah. Listen, if you have happy hour at the Thoroughbred racing course, you're probably not dealing with the most sophisticated, history. No, Churchill Downs is. If you've been there, you know what I mean. It's just not very charming. It's not beautiful. It's really kind of underwhelming.
So one of my husbands, and it's through extension, one of my husband's favorite things, there used to be, because we're a Saratoga family, there was a commercial about Saratoga involving some horses, and I want you to do the commercial, basically.
Wait, there's 2 of them.
Well, there's the upset.
Let me see if I can do this. Okay, this is a commercial. It was about a horse called. It's a commercial about Saratoga. Saratoga has an unbelievable history.
What's their nickname?
And it's called the Graveyard of Champions, not the Graveyard of Favorites. People always mess that up, but it has this well-earned reputation as legendary horses.
What's his name?
Losing there,
the most recent.
After the Triple Crown, Secretariat's next race was at Saratoga, and he came in second or third.
But the most recent Triple Crown,
American Pharoah, in his career, there was only one race that he did not win, and it was at the Travers Stakes at Saratoga. But the one of the other examples is of a horse called Man-O-War, one of the greatest horses of all time. So I'm going to try to do this. Man-O-War was one of the greatest horses of all time. It was said that he could break a rival's heart just by looking him in the eye. He won 20 races, and he lost only once. And it happened to a horse named Upset. And it happened at a place called Saratoga.
I can see this ad. I mean, I've never heard this ad, but I can see this ad.
But I mean, it's really cool to know, like, that's where Upset came from.
This is of some contention. People, I would like to believe that, but apparently there are records of that term being used in relation to long shot, upsets in sports prior to that. But even as a historian, you know what? Those people are fuddy-duddies and no fun. So I like the Saratoga.
Well, I have a question. You talked about how you pick your bets. What bet do you place? Like, do you go for the trifecta, or? I
go for what is called an exacta, which is you have to get the horse that came in first and the horse that came in second in that order. Unless you box them, then they can come in either order. So it's like a trifecta, but just
if one. If people would like to know what I do, I like to go to the paddock. You know what?
You pick the cutest one?
I have just a good record sometimes as he does. Because, again, it's all chance. I go and look at the horses. It's not about the cutest one. It's just, like, sometimes the horse will just speak to me. And I'm like, that's the one. I don't do it by name. I go and, like, if I can be by the paddock and look at the horse. His grandmother had
You might be describing the plot to Richard Dreyfuss' movie Let It Ride. I think the horse kind of looks at him. He's like, that's...
But his grandmother used to have a rule about, like, betting on gray horses. Like...
Yeah, both of them loved gray horses, so everyone in my family now still bets on gray horses.
Yeah.
She also had a superstition, one of them did, about when she would see hay... Like her first, when you drive up to the track, when you see like your first a bale of hay, she would place like she'd say a wish, because that's what Irish people wish for, is not health or.
It's winning the goddamn horse race.
I forgot what the goddamn races.
I forgot we did accents in this.
We did so many accents.
Oh my god, it's terrible.
It's amazing.
I when I look at the horses walk by, I do look for a little bit of sweat. I like to see I like to see a little lather.
Yeah.
People have their preferences. Courtney likes big horses.
I do. I like a big, dumb fucking horse. Like
me being 5'6", I like the little guys. It's kind of.
Yeah, it's a fun...
I don't know what she's trying to tell me. So
no, I just like the big dumb because Man-O-War was like my favorite horse, and he's a big horse. I love a big horse. So
People's Champion like Seabiscuit.
Yes, like
scrappy,
little squirrely dog.
Scrappy little.
But it's like conversely, like everybody now thinks is like of thoroughbreds as being these like lean, mean, whatever. I like a horse that like. Looks like if it falls down, it's going to get the fuck back up. But, so I guess I got, like, a couple more questions is, what is your all-time favorite track memory? Like, what is the best track thing? Like,
Going with you.
No, don't do that. Don't do that.
Yeah, that's obviously a lie.
Yeah, like, what is your favorite track moment? Like...
I mean, aside from winning...
Well, just like you have something that was so memorable. Like for me, it was. So we went to the track, and it was after. I can't remember what horse it was, but the trainer looked a lot like Christopher's dad.
Oh, yeah.
And we had good seats, so I was like in a fancy dress, and people were like congratulating Christopher's dad, thinking that he was the guy that like.
Was that opening day?
It might have been, but like everybody's like, "Hey, congratulations,
but,
congratulations!"
We had slightly fancy seats.
Yeah, we had we had the bandstand seats,
and I can't remember what horse it was that had won the Kentucky Derby, but the trainer's name is Shug McGahee.
Yeah.
And if you Google Shug McGahee, he does look like my father.
And it was like this fun, like crazy.
So as my father walked through Saratoga, he had a couple people like congratulating him. My father is a pretty successful guy, and he runs into people all the time.
This is like, okay.
Who worked with him or like, but no, this was.
It was different.
We can't prove that he was mistaken for.
I think congratulated us, and it wasn't just like because we're walking around. Like,
he's just walking around. My father is even more, because we were trying to get to our seats, I think, and so he was even more get out of my way than I usually am, and so he was not, plying. He was not, glad. Yeah, he was not like doing that. He was just like. So I
guess So like the last question is again like. Talking about like trips with your grandmother or like just whatever in general, like what's your favorite track memory? It doesn't have to be about
okay, I do have one actually. This was a time when we had very fancy seats. I can't recall how we got them for the day, but we got box seats. Now box seats are not the normal grandstand seats. This is in the clubhouse area. These often are not things you can buy. Usually they are owned. But however it is that we ended up there, we're in the box seats. And who sits down in the box seat next to us but Nick Zito, my favorite trainer. Now Nick Zito, you remember what I said before, Nick Zito is joined by someone straight out of like Goodfellas.
Yeah.
Or this, but he is joined by this old, raspy-voiced Italian man who is just like every stereotype of this guy has done some stuff. He has seen some stuff. He had that weird Italian movie guy voice, like the hey Nicky boy, that's the voice like this. I can't do it. But you probably know what I'm talking about if you've seen enough, of those movies. Anyway, I placed my bet. The horse I bet on, I don't remember who it was, but his jockey was Robbie Davis. So my favorite jockey, my favorite owner coming into play. This is not why they're my favorite, but those two were involved. And so, I don't bet huge money, especially not to people like Nick Zito.
Yeah.
And I was probably, I don't know, maybe college at the time, maybe late high school. By the way, you're not supposed to bet until you're 18, but
don't do that, kids.
I got caught once by a security guard when I was like 14, and my mom had to bet for me the rest of the day. But besides that, come on.
Stay in school, kids.
Unless you really know what you're doing. Unless you listen to this and you make, tens of thousands. Stay in school. Anyway, I made my bet. It was on the horse with Robbie Davis. And coming down the stretch, it was like in third place or so and started to get closer and closer to the lead. And so I'm just screaming at him, come on, Robbie! Come on, Robbie! And Nick Zito just looks over at me. And instead of being like this jackass, he just has like a smirk on his face, like enjoying that, somebody is getting this kind of joy out of this. It wasn't a fancy race or anything. It wasn't a big race. It was the last race of the day. So it was just like kind of this legend of the sport. And my kind of semi-experience with him is he's kind of like looking at me and enjoying how much, how much fun I was having, how much of a thrill I was getting out of this race. And the horse won. So,
Well, thank you for joining us.
This is Christopher's Handicapping Tales.
I can't believe I did this garbage sober.
It was
this what? This
you did
what?
a good job. Always bet on a gray horse.
Always bet on a gray horse.
And we're back.
We're back from horse time.
Okay, so this fucking book. This wee fucking book.
This wee book. This wee book.
No, Jesus. So there's Adelia, who's had a hard life.
She's had a hard life. It's a hard life she's had.
The wee lassie has
not had a good one. Bless the saints and the child above.
She had a mean auntie.
She had a stern auntie after her parents died. Had to work the farm.
Her auntie did not have enough love left for her after her love for the cows.
We have to stop. Okay.
Oh my god. Seriously, it's like this completely stupid like backstory. Her parents are dead. Her aunt is not a bad person, just not a very loving person.
The thing that's important to know is that apparently Adelia, before she comes to America, lived in 1845 Ireland.
Yes.
All she had was I don't even know if she went to school.
She had some rotten potatoes, and that was her tutor.
She had a farm, she had some potatoes, but nothing else. Nothing else. Like, she does not experience modernity in the least until she gets on the plane and comes to the United States in the 1980s.
She has this uncle who's her father's brother, but...
Patty.
Of course his name is Patty.
Patty.
But she's never
got away
met
with the
this
horses.
Man. Yeah, well, the whole family has away with the horses. But yeah, she's never met this man. But the second that her aunt dies, she writes to him to tell him,
she had to sell the farm to pay off taxes.
Yeah.
So she had nothing.
In a way.
Yeah.
But then like her uncle's like, just fucking come.
I guess they wrote letters to each other.
No, she wrote one letter and his line was just like, come here. Don't worry about it.
No, they did write letters. I remember that part. They wrote letters.
It's bullshit.
Anyway, yeah, I mean, they never met, and I don't understand, like, they had phones, why they couldn't make a fucking phone call.
Well, she probably didn't have a phone.
I don't have a phone.
In 1856.
In 1856, we don't have phones.
But the plague, the blight and the potatoes are so bad.
I can pick up the potato, but the potato's not going to get good reception.
Just hold it up higher, Patty.
Hold the potato up higher. Put the foil in it. Put the aluminum foil in it. So...
Yeah, it's like that.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, Nora Roberts is kind of Irish, isn't she?
You know what she is, and again, I could get my husband back on this.
She's the kind of Irish person who buys, like, a farm in Ireland when she gets really rich.
She's American-Irish in that, like, you know, she puts on all the green shit at St. Patrick's Day, like, gets her little, you know, insignia found, you know, that kind of thing.
I think so.
She's that Irish person, like that. She's all WASPs have to be Irish. Or like if you're white and you're not Italian and you're not Greek, you gotta love the being Irish. It's
you can also be Polish.
You can't be Polish.
Yeah, because my mom's from Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And we're the Polish people.
I'm a Polish people.
Yeah.
But we're like the Polish Catholics, so we're harder than you.
That's my mom's family. They're the Polish Catholics.
We had a time.
My great aunt, and when she was in the nursing home and kind of, you know, a little bit not there, was very upset that her roommate was Italian because she thought she was gonna steal all this stuff out of her nightstand. Because oh my God, there's nobody more racist than a Yankee with a particular ethnic identity white person.
That is true. That is true.
Absolutely.
All right, so she comes to America. She comes to America on the plane. She's never been on a plane. She comes to America. Her uncle Patty works at a horse farm in Maryland.
And when she gets off this plane,
I've never seen so many people. There's so many people.
Let the river run. Let all the dreamers wake the nation.
She wishes she was Melanie Griffith. What she wishes.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, she sees people, like, from...
I've got a head for business and a bod for scent.
That's so much less sexy when you say it in your fake Irish accent.
It's great.
But so, yeah, and then this is a Maryland horse farm.
Yeah.
So, and it's very rich, and I mean, they don't even have to describe it. It's well described, but you don't have to because we've all seen, like, this incredibly rich people horse farm. And Patty lives in a house on the property, which belongs to Travis, but is kind of his house.
Yes.
And so it's got a room for her, and they fall in father-daughter love immediately.
Yeah, she falls into his arms like, Uncle Patty! Oh, you wee thing! Oh, you wee thing! I haven't seen you in so long, you wee thing!
It's a little weird. It's a little weird. Yeah, so, but, and she's like, well, I want to work. Well, you don't have to work. Well, I want to work.
I'm used to working. I didn't go to school. I mean, I've traveled from the past.
It's unclear if I know how to read.
I've had to use my potato for time travel.
It's the batteries. You know how you can make a potato battery? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's that. That's how she does it. That's how she gets here.
So she starts work. She, wants to work, and, day 2, she doesn't even have jet lag. She is up with the crows or the roosters and is just going. And they have this horse, one of the 3 race horses that they have.
Which is crazy because it's an enormous racing barn, but they have 1.5 race horses.
So this horse Majesty is notoriously difficult.
He's already thrown a groom.
Yeah.
But she has a way with the horses.
She's got a way with the horses.
Which, I mean, yeah, okay, fine.
Yeah.
Fine. People in Ireland, my understanding is if you own a farm in Ireland, you may still actually be... It's one of those things that comes up in those... What is a thing that only really rich people and really poor people have, and horses is one of them.
Yeah. But, okay, so... That is my beagle in the background making all these old person...
It's a little person.
It's a little person, but the beagle sounds
it's the
old fat man.
Banshee.
She sounds like Dom DeLuise.
Well, I mean, we were always told the Banshee wails, but in fact, the Banshee snorts.
Snorts. All right, so sorry about that, folks.
She's calling you to the graveyard.
Now I'm watching her like a jet.
It's just old butthole. It's amazing.
All right, so she's managed to subdue the horse, and not even 5 minutes after she's been here, they just throw her up on this $1 million animal.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, you take him around. You're Irish.
And let's remind you, every racehorse, it's $1 million animal on 10 set
yeah,
legs.
Exactly.
You fuck up on a racehorse, that racehorse dies in the middle of the track.
So they just let her ride it around, and, of course it's the best. She's amazing at it.
Which, okay, great.
No, but she's I guarantee you, even in, she's been on horses, but she's never been on a thoroughbred.
A racehorse is a whole other ball of
she's been on,
wax.
some half-dead draft horse.
I can ride a car. I can ride a car. I can drive a car, but I can't drive a Lamborghini.
Yeah.
That's, you know what happens when people buy Lamborghinis that don't know how to drive them? They, smash them up into little pieces.
That's true.
Yeah.
All right, so...
But it's in the middle of the night. She does get jet lag because she can't sleep, and she goes to go see the horses, and there's, bam! Like a giant paw of a hand on her shoulder.
Somebody, who are you?
Travis thinks she's a man that's sneaking in to steal his horses.
And so she has her meet sort of violent with Travis.
Yeah, meet violent.
They tell, she's like, who are you to put your hands on me? And he's like, oh, you saucy. You must be Patty's, niece. He's immediately into it.
Because she is, of course, the most beautiful.
She's the most beautiful. She's short and redheaded. And
at some point in this, he says, it would be easier if you didn't look like you were 15.
Yeah, gross. So,
yeah,
they have, some banter. She's like, I've ridden your horse. And he's
you have not?
Yeah. He's rightfully upset that she has been on the horse. And so, he has this, well, I'll give you a 2-week, I'll give you a fortnight. Give me a fortnight.
Yes.
A fortnight trial run. So,
and then you must hold on to me as I turn into a wolf and a bear.
And so they do this, secret, she's going to be whatever. But and then that goes away because she's, the hardest working person. Yeah.
Nothing matters. So he meets his sister, Trish, who we like Trish.
Oh my gosh, this book is great for that. We'll get into that later. So we meet Trish and her 2 twin boys. We find out that Trish and Travis are twins.
And then Trish has twins.
# twin magic.
Yeah, there's twin magic, my dear.
Twin magic. The twin magic is here.
Oh, and she tells them all about the little... No, she really does tell them all about the little people. Oh, my God.
Little people coming to take your bacon.
They've never heard of leprechauns.
No.
To be fair, we have an assignment, which is for our son, but really for us.
Yeah.
We had to turn it in by St. Patrick's Day. It's a leprechaun trap. And we had to explain to our son what the fuck a leprechaun is.
That's amazing.
He didn't know. And we're like, okay, fine, okay. But it's so my husband actually bought some Lucky Charms.
Oh, it's fun.
Yeah, to show Eric what a leprechaun looks like. So, so Trish takes her on a shopping spree with, granted, her own money.
Her first paycheck. Yeah, she's like, oh, you've never bought anything that you've just wanted. Let's go do that. And
I like that. Yeah. It wasn't like her first shopping trip wasn't something that he paid for. It was like her own money. And it wasn't like they cheated her in Sweet Liar where they pretended like she was paying for it. No,
she actually paid for it.
Yeah, it was great. They had a very nice moment together. But really, he wants to show her off, his hot groom. Which I guess if you wanted to be on the cover of Racehorse Monthly, you would get a hot redhead groom.
So they go to their, essentially, like, the horse's first race, which is they go take the horse to Kentucky, they go to Churchill Downs, they have to do the qualifying race,
Right.
and then they do the Derby. And Dee is amazed with the ancientness of Churchill Downs. I've never seen anything this old.
I looked it up. If you go to England as opposed to Ireland, so the oldest race course in Ireland is from the 1600s. You can go to England across like the little tiny like water between it and see somewhere from the 1500s where they're still racing horses. But please tell me more about the ancientness of Churchill Downs.
It was hilarious. Like, you know, she kept talking about how big Churchill Downs is, and like Churchill Downs is really small. Like, again, we're Team Saratoga in this house. Saratoga is big. Like, Churchill Downs is little.
I was super into horse racing when I was a kid because I was super into horses, but I've never actually been to a race. So I'll be with Team Courtney on this.
Yeah, like Churchill Downs is. I mean, I'm not saying like that it doesn't get filled up or anything at like Derby time, but it's like it's kind of a small like, meh, like I don't know. It's not this huge stately thing,
And anyway, I mean, like, come on.
Yeah, exactly. So their horse...
Like, she's supposed to be excited. She gets a souvenir Manjula cup. Like, yeah.
Well, you do get the cups. We have, like...
Yeah, well, what?
I mean, the cups are fun. I don't know.
There's more to, I mean, he's supposed to be a bazillionaire. Here's your souvenir cup.
She likes the simple things.
That's true. She is a simple lass.
She likes the simple things.
Simple lass with simple tastes.
So, their horse, easy peasy, wins the Derby.
Yeah. Like you do.
Like you do. And
then hilariously, they don't race him in the Preakness.
Yeah.
Not because the horse is injured or anything. He's just like so smart of a horse racer guy that he like puts another horse in the Preakness.
Yeah, because the Preakness is long, I think. Or no,
the Belmont's a long one.
The long one.
That's why they all fuck it up in the Belmont because they're like tuned to the
mile and a
Derby.
half. Yeah. So like they just put another horse in, so we don't even have to deal with like a Triple Crown thing. I was like, all right, whatever.
But you would never, ever in a million years do that. You would never have the opportunity to win the Triple Crown and be like, well, we're not going to race the fucking Preakness.
Yeah.
To be fair, Baltimore is a fucking pit.
Yeah, fair enough.
I did go there for an anime convention.
Oh, God.
Right before 9/11. And what happened in that place before 9/11 at Otakon was like there was some kind of like a problem in the sewers, like some natural gas release. There were manhole covers leaping into the air, like 20 feet into the air and like popping down. My friend Jenna got hives because it rained on us.
Oh, God.
It's how nasty Baltimore is. And they were letting the fire hydrants go into the streets because like they were trying to put out the fires beneath. And I told my mom that, and she's like, yeah, whatever. Then 9/11 happened, and then me and my friends went to Anime Weekend Atlanta a month after, and she was so worried, like, the city that I went to college in, that we were going to be going there and were we safe. Like, Mom, Baltimore tried to murder us, like, every fucking day, and that was fine. You lent us your car.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, good times. Anyway, Baltimore's a fucking pit.
Yeah. All right, so moving on.
Yeah, moving on. Oh, shit, we forgot. Before they go to the Derby.
Oh, God, yeah. So she's out in the stable late one night, and there's like one of the grooms, and he's drunk, and he basically he attempts to rape her, and it's like graphic, like she's getting slapped, her shirt and clothes are getting torn.
It's very distressing.
And then Travis, romance heroes, comes in, like pulls the guy off, and like basically tries to beat the guy to death, and then she has to pull him off.
Which, talk about fucking emotional labor.
Yeah, exactly.
She has to, like, keep him from killing this dude.
Yeah.
But then, interestingly, Travis actually wants to go to the cops.
Yeah. And then she's like, no, we can't go to the cops because then Patty will find out. And
Like, Patty who?
And then the story just drops. Like, that shit drops. He brings it up once as an asshole move, but, like, we don't know what happens to the
this guy gets hired on at the next stable down the fucking road and rapes somebody else.
So,
but it is written very distressingly, by the way. If you're not sure if you should read this, and that, like, like, it's funny because like the rest of this is written, like the horse races are like written extremely unexcitingly.
Yeah, exactly.
But this rape scene,
it was very graphic. So, all right, that happened a good bit like into the thing. So, they do the they do the Derby. They skip.
Well, and they keep popping up on each other. Like he keeps like
he does the kiss grab.
Yeah, the kiss grab, or he'll like be there in the house. It's Patty's house, but also his. You know, like so he owns the property, but he'll just be there.
And he's like, I've got to find a way to
do something with your sharp tongue, and then he like does that.
It's very romance novel, so that's not written in a distressing way if you're accustomed to romances, but if you're not, then it's not cool.
Right.
It's very physical. He's always like throwing her against walls and shit.
Exactly. He's very like grabbing her, shaking her, that kind of thing.
And she doesn't really know what to do with it. But they go to the Belmont. And they win. Yeah. And she's got her little outfits and everything. But on the way back on the plane, Patty has a heart attack.
Oh, at the Belmont, they have like this super romantic dinner.
Oh yeah.
And like she is willing to like go for it, and then he just like stalks off. So she thinks she's rejected.
It's one of those books where like every time that she's into it, he's like whatever. Yeah. And we really never see his internality very much.
Right.
Yeah.
So on the plane, Patty has a heart attack.
And they land it. It's filmed actually very like you know. Affectingly, and he's just stressed out. And so the doctor says, well, he's incredibly stressed. You just got to do whatever he tells you to do. Yeah. And he's like, I want you to marry each other. And so, like, Travis is like, get the fucking priest.
Yeah, it's like, but if something happens and Dee doesn't have anyone, what's going to happen? You know, so.
Yeah, so, like, he's like, well, get the fucking priest.
Yeah. So
they get married. It's a sham marriage in the third fucking act.
Yeah, it's a sham marriage. He's like, well, we'll just get a divorce. She's like, I'm Catholic. We don't get divorced.
So we'll get an annulment because we'll never consummate.
Yeah, and she's like, he doesn't love me. She fell in love with him earlier in the book because they helped deliver a breech foal.
Oh, forgot about that.
Even though, again, he's got millions of dollars of horse and then no vet that is like his own vet.
This is like a $bazillion foal, and the vet's not on the spot.
So she has to deliver the breech foal.
Which, of course, she's done many times.
Yes.
Back in Ireland,
all the horses' foals were breech.
Yes, because it's the other side of the world.
It's a Pegasus.
Yes, it's very hard to get the wings out.
We can't get the wings out, so
we take them off and then we stick them back on once they're born.
Yeah, after they delivered the foal, she had fallen instant love with him.
Yeah,
and so she's been in love with him the whole time, and
But the same thing with him, but they're doing that stupid romance novel fucking thing that they do. So anyway, sham marriage. So now she's completely desolate because, of course, that he has to be married to her. She doesn't want, and he moves her into the big house.
Yeah.
But into her own room because he's being actually fucking considerate of her. But of course, it's the kind of thing where nobody can take it the way that it's meant.
Right.
And Trish takes her on a big fucking shopping trip. Because now, I mean, like, it's gonna hit the papers. He's right.
Yeah.
And like, they won the fucking Belmont, even though they didn't race the Triple Crown.
She's got to go to fancy parties.
Yeah. So which is a big thing. So goes and does a big old shopping thing, which of course we.
Yeah, I always love a shopping thing. I love a shopping thing. So,
but Margot, who was his previous girl,
comes into the picture,
and she has. Which I think the funny thing is, they run into her in the shopping spree, and she has like exquisite silver hair, and Dee thinks it's beautiful, and then like Trish is cracking up. I think we were supposed to think it's like, oh, Margot's so old.
Well, I think what it was is that she had like that platinum-y hair, and it was just like where Dee's so naive and Irish that she thought
never
it was
heard
like
of hair dye.
Or, that she thought it was like natural hair.
It was hard to say. I mean, it could have gone either way.
Well, there were two run-ins. There was a run-in in the first shopping trip with like some woman that was a friend of Trish's, and then there's a run-in at a party with Margot. And we found out that Margot is the most beautiful woman that Dee has ever seen.
Very polished.
And that Margot had dated Travis, and that she was trying to pull basically the dogs are being high octane tonight.
The wee barns.
The wee barns.
Yeah, I'm talking.
Anyway, so she was thinking that she would go to Europe and Travis would chase after her, and that didn't happen.
Yeah. It's like that kind of thing. And, of course, it's the contrast between this very, very high-maintenance woman and your earthy
naturally
girl.
Beautiful Irish girl.
In the meantime, a dog pops up.
Yeah, there's a dog.
And he's very dirty. And funny, the dog also shoves her around.
Yeah, every man in this just shoves her around.
Yeah.
So they kind of grow closer together, and then...
But he always does something to make her...
Yeah, get her Irish up, as they keep saying. So... Finally, one evening, there's a giant thunderstorm. They finally do it. And then the next day, she wakes up. He says he has an appointment, and like she's going downstairs, and she hears him talking to Margot. And Margot's basically like, you need to leave that trash and come back with me. And instead of staying around and, like, hearing the conversation.
Yeah, she just, like, jumps to the conclusion.
Yeah, she jumps to the conclusion and then just, like, takes...
That is the thing I cannot stand about fucking romance novels, when they, like, the jumping to conclusion part.
She just, like, takes off and, like, he catches up with her at the airport.
At the airport.
Yeah, at the airport.
We need to have, like, a bell to ring every time a pre-9/11 thing happens.
Oh, my God. So they catch up at the airport. He, like, drags her off again, and she's like, stop grabbing me. But
he doesn't.
No, and they finally, like, he's like, if you had stayed around and listened, you would have found out that I love you. And she's like, well, why didn't you tell me? And I was like, valid point. And then she's like, well, I love you. And then,
let's not get an annulment. I wish there were a storm all the time.
Yeah, so they end up, yay, happily ever after.
Ba-bam.
All right, so we're going to take a quick break. And in this break, my brother-in-law is going to talk about the other side of Saratoga, which is basically drunk shenanigans. And we'll be back.
When people think of Saratoga race course in Saratoga Springs, New York, they usually think of the racing at the horse track, which does feature some of the finest racing in the country. And it's a tradition for many people in New York and really across the country to come to Saratoga in the summer and bet on the horses. But a lot of times people don't realize some of the best action, especially the action you can gamble on, happens after the races. There was a year, many, many years ago, when my buddies and I had lost quite a bit of money at the track. Probably drank, dusted off 2 or 3 cases of beer. We're leaving the track, heading to dinner. We're going to hit some local night spots. We're on a way to a bar called Ciro's, which was about maybe a half mile from the track. We were walking over, and we just hadn't got our fill in gambling yet. So one of my chubby buddies challenged another one of my chubby buddies to a 100-yard dash, and neither of them were in very good shape at all. Terrible shape, in fact. They were in their young 20s, and their bodies had no excuse to look like the way they did at that age. One of his name was Lee. We called him Leslie. And another buddy was called Mike. We called him the Crypt Keeper because he is a funeral director. Well, Leslie and the Crypt Keeper challenged each other to a 100-yard dash. The rest of us lined up on the side of the road. One buddy, Scott, stopped traffic at one end of the road. I mean, we have 50,000 people pouring out of the track. Traffic is already backed up enough, and you got these 2 assholes, Scott and Kurt, stopping traffic. And you got 2 bigger assholes, Leslie and the Crypt Keeper, in flip-flops, by the way, both of them, lining up in the middle of the road for a 50-yard dash. Next thing I know, there's people lined up along the side of the road, a few hundred of them, placing bets. And they were calling them the short, chubby kid and the really chubby kid. That's how they were differentiating between of them. Leslie was the real chubby kid, and Mike was the short, chubby kid. The race went off. Leslie sprints out to an early lead. Maybe he's got Mike, the Crypt Keeper, by about 50 steps or so. About 5 steps or so. Next thing you know, Leslie blows out a flip-flop, falls right on his face, wipes out in the middle of the road. Crypt Keeper ends up winning a 100-yard dash. Probably, this is not an exaggeration, it was probably about $1,000 to $2,000 bet on the side of that race, just on the side of the road. Great action. We go to Ciro's after that, dust off dinner, have a few more beers each, and, the whole time we're there, there's just people harassing my 2 buddies about the race. Kept telling Leslie that he cost him a fortune, that he couldn't even run 100 yards without falling on his face. And, to this day, some of the best action in Saratoga occurred on that side street that day between the Undertaker, the Crypt Keeper, and Leslie Francis.
And we're back.
Here we are. It's question time.
Question time.
All right, number 1, big dick energy or big dick energy?
This dude was barely there.
I know. Like,
he was barely a human.
I felt like he was like a Jude dude. That's what I'm going to call him. Jude dudes.
No, I think that there's more to a Jude dude. And there's nothing to a Jude dude.
Yeah. This guy was just like...
You know what he is? He's a poltergeist. He just like slams you around the room.
Yeah.
It's that kind of thing where he's always throwing you up against a wall.
I think I have no opinion of him.
She's got arm bruises all the time, but she doesn't really remember where they came from because he has no personality.
She's kind of like Joe Beth Williams. Like, that's really what he Joe Bethed her. So
it's weird, yeah, because I mean I think that he's supposed to be this very, very romance novel guy, like very capital R, capital N romance novel. But he didn't have, like, the BD either.
Yeah, I can't, like, either one. It was just, you know what? It was just, like...
Fart noise.
Just flaccid.
Fart noise.
Fart noise. Fart noise.
Would you talk shit with or about the heroine?
She was fine. I liked her.
Fine, yeah.
I mean, she's a little bit of, like, again, she's very Irish caricature, you know? Like,
yeah, like absurdly so.
Yeah, like...
But, I mean, like, she had a sense of humor.
Yeah, she like, had some good jokes.
She certainly had, like, the competence porn.
And, you got a lot of sense of who she was. Like, I liked that about her. Yeah. I liked that, like, she had personality.
Grounded. She was very, she was very confident in her own identity.
Yeah.
It occurs to me, by the way, going back to the hero, what bothered me the most, and it never made a big deal about this, but they should have. Okay, so, like, I get that Patty doesn't own a house. That Travis owns the house and Patty lives in it. But when you do that, you have an agreement that you sign. And your landlord, your owner, does not just walk the fuck in all the time. Yeah. She'll wake up on the couch and he'll be there.
Yeah.
Not fucking cool.
Yeah.
But then I couldn't get that mad because he wasn't even a real dude.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so.
All right, Bechdel to bitch ratio.
I really like Trish.
I feel like this one probably, especially since it is 1981, is probably the best of the books that we've done that are this early about women and women's relationships.
Even though they had opposite hair colors even, and they were still not even.
Yeah, so you have Trish, and you have her who are friends. You have the other woman that's like there's the housekeeper, Hannah.
Oh, yeah, and they had a good relationship,
They had a good relationship. There's that friend of Trish's, like, that wasn't adversarial.
Yeah, and I mean, even I thought that like just the minor way in which they discussed her relationship with her aunt. Yeah. She wasn't a monster. She just wasn't a person who was very demonstrative.
There's a part where Margot confronts Dee, and like usually in this, like if you think about like Gabriel's Angel, where it's like, you know, she just takes it. Mm-hmm. Like Dee gives it back and is like, "You think you're gonna get him? I'm staying married to him," and like just gives her the business. So I feel like it was really good about female relationships.
It was. Now, I mean, the question is, having read this and no other Nora Roberts and not knowing this was a famous person, would I have wanted to read another one? I'm not sure.
I don't know. Yeah, I feel like, but
it was a very my
problems with it would have all been like with the dude. You know,
we only read this because it was extremely short. I had it in the box, and we needed to like kind of test some tech stuff before we did another podcast.
Exactly.
So it's kind of hard to say, but this is like a kind of nothing burger of a book, I gotta say. When it comes to consent, is this book more Robin Thicke or Marvin Gaye?
So, I mean, you obviously have the really upsetting rape scene, but like I do like that they don't ever call it anything other than attempted rape.
Yes. Yes, they are very upfront that that's not like a romance novel bullshit. I mean, like, and he wants to go to the cops.
He's very grabby of her, and he's still very grabby of her even after the attempted rape. And, you know, like, I feel like she might have had, like, some trauma that, like, just gets...
I just kind of feel that is some romance novel shit.
Yeah.
That's just, like a trope of the genre.
But their sex is completely consensual when they finally have it.
Oh, she loves a storm, which I get because I fucking love it.
I know, he was all thinking that she was going to be scared.
And she's like, oh my god, it's really coming down out there.
Yeah, I really liked that.
Let's do it.
Yeah, so, I mean, like, I feel like, and again, especially for an early book, like, it's not anything... There's nothing, you know, again, between our main characters that's upsetting.
No, it's just...
again, like his barging in and all that, but,
it's got a little bit of that, like, okay, so we talked about it before, usually when a man is very extra in these, the woman is very extra in these, and... In your past or future, Dragonflight is like that.
Yes.
She's a little more down to earth, which makes it a little more noticeable.
Yeah, I think
so.
You know,
it's less noticeable when both of them are just like slamming doors.
I think we're supposed to think like her Irish temper, but it was just like her just mouthing off, and I'm like, you know, mouthing off is different than like
and mouthing off in a very reasonable, under reasonable circumstances.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, how badly are you judging your mom off for reading this book?
Yeah, this book is harmless.
Not at all. I've been, like, pissed off about it, and we'll talk about that in a second.
Well, the funny thing is, I'm not sure if I read it. I read a lot of books about horse racing,
Yeah.
And horses, because
yeah.
horse girl.
I was a horse girl too. I used to, where I lived, this is a real quick aside, the town that I lived in, like the Ann Springs Close, who basically owned the town, like she had this really cool thing because she owned the big horse farm. And so you'd pay, I think it was so cheap. It was like $20, $25 a month. And once a week, you could go and like you'd have like your horse and you'd just ride around. And so like me and my friends would go.
I guarantee you my parents paid a lot more for my dressage lessons.
So like we just like would go, and I rode a like really fat quarter horse named Falstaff that I could just ride bareback. And then I rode a little Falstaff, and then he got sent to fat camp. And then my second horse was Jezebel, who was a little like Arabian. And I loved her the most. She was scared of water. She'd just hop over it. So, but I thought it was a really cool way to give back to the town. And like basically all of us in high school would just go.
Oh my God.
And so like every Tuesday, me and my friends, we had our standing like horse date. So.
Yeah, one of those things like that we used to do so easily when I was a kid. I'm like, well, how's my son gonna be a horse boy?
Yeah.
Like the same way that like you always knew somebody who had a pool.
Yeah.
Or who like was a member with a pool when I was a kid, and now like, well, nobody has a fucking pool anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, same thing. Like, how am I gonna get my son to be weirdly sexually attracted to horses?
I mean, I just don't even know how much like
I had to import them.
I mean, like I took lessons when I was young. And then, like, just, did that. Because it wasn't lessons. Like, it was really just kind of, like, she was, like, because she had all this land.
Oh, yeah,
that's now become, like, the Greenway. And, like, yeah, it was just, like, you'd have, like, 2 hours, 3 hours after school from, like, 3 to 5 that you could just ride with your friends on the trails.
I took lessons from Claudia Gardner. And that was not my Irish. I'm sorry, my Irish accent sounds exactly like my German accent. I am sure that now, as an adult, I would love the shit out of her. When I was a child, I was terrified of this German lady who had no time for your fucking bullshit. You know, the kind of horse lady who just has no time for your fucking bullshit, which now I admire intensely.
Yeah.
But at the time, pants-shittingly terrified.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Would Scarlett Johansson be in the movie? Well, if she could have her,
it's too white. It's too white for her to be.
Too white, yeah. Well, although she could wear her, like, shitty Avengers wigs.
She could.
Yeah.
So many redheaded wigs.
Oh, my God.
You're not leaving the house looking like that.
Oh, well, there were
every dress in it is green.
But there should have been better outfits. I wanted more description of the outfits.
Yeah, it was just like a green jersey dress.
Which would be hot on her, yeah.
Then a green evening gown.
Yeah.
And then she wore a lot of t-shirts, jeans, and hats.
Which I was all for, but I
then, like, she'd take a baseball hat off and her hair still looked amazing. I was like, lies.
Of course. And, she smelled like horse spit all the time. God, yeah. But then again, if that's your thing, that's your thing.
That's your thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Would your 12-year-old self have dogged any pages? Fuck you!
This book has no sex.
I was waiting for the sex.
There's no sex.
Fuck the sex in this book.
All it is just like, and then we made love. Like, that is legit the sentence, and then we made love. I was like, are you fucking kidding me?
I waited so long.
There is more description of the attempted rape than there is of, like, this consensual thunderstorm sex.
But then I should have known that was coming because, like, this woman, the easiest thing to make exciting in a book is a horse race.
Oh, God, yeah, she fucks
all those Walter Farley books that I read, and I did read. Oh, my God.
I loved those books, too.
I loved them so hard, including the one where he goes on a mescaline trip in the Southwest.
Oh, they're so good.
Yes. But, like, no. I mean, it has its own drama. No, she would dispose of the horse races in a paragraph.
Yeah.
It was
Did you ever read the Linda Craig books? Those were my jams, too.
No, I didn't.
So it was like, Linda Craig was this girl. She was a horse girl, and she had a Palomino. I can't remember the horse's name. I wish I could. But it was her and her friends, and they all had horses, and the horses get described. I remember one girl had a pony named Shorty, and they would just go ride, and then, like, adventures would happen to them. They were the best books.
Yeah, I was all over Walter Farley and also Margaret Henry.
Yeah.
Like the OG, the classic horse books.
Yeah. I think you would, like, I remember me and my mom would go to, like, the mall, back when, there was the mall, and there was South Park. And I can't remember the name of the bookstore. There's this, like, nice bookstore in South Park, and, like, it had this little lower level with, like, the kid preteen books, and I would just, like, they had the Linda Craigs, and I would get myself a Linda Craig.
See, that's when I was reading Dragonlance.
Yeah, no, I was all those horse adventure books, and they were older books. Like, I think they had been republished from like the 60s or something.
Well, so with those Walter Farley things.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, like, as an adult, you realize that those the Black Stallion books were really for high school kids.
Yeah.
But like books move downward in age.
Yeah, and because because remember the movies were so popular that it was like.
And I saw the movie again for the first not the first time for the first time in ages. A couple years ago. It's really good.
Oh, such a good. I loved it. I was obsessed. I was obsessed with the Black
idea
Stallion.
that you too could be on a ship that went down and everybody you knew and loved had died, but you would have a horse.
You would have that beautiful black horse. Everybody wanted a black horse too.
And then you would have a ridiculous outfit to ride on it in a. It's weird, but it's great. Okay, it's fucking great.
So this book, garbage with the sex.
Garbage with the sex.
Even my 12-year-old self would have just been like. And throw it away.
Because it led up, and I mean, it was fucking blue balling you like a motherfucker. It was a cock tease of a book.
I did not enjoy that part.
So what does pair nicely with the dumpster fire?
Oh, we gotta go with the Jamesons.
Oh, the Jamesons?
Oh, the Jamesons.
She
has the whiskey. Remember, she doesn't want the brandy. She wants the whiskey.
She does want the whiskey.
I've had the whiskey.
I would have gotten 14 Hands. Because I keep seeing that, and there's never a horse.
I thought about that one too.
A fucking horse book, not a horse book. There's a completely different ball of wax.
So, yeah, it was. I mean, overall, it was fine. It's not the best. It's not the worst. It was just kind of there. It was very bland.
It's very strange to read this though, knowing that it's Nora Roberts.
I know.
I can't quite place it. Whether I can't divest myself.
It's very much a first book, and I think too. I think what is really interesting about because this is one of those.
It doesn't say. I'm sure it was a
I feel like it's like a Harlequin or something too,
like a silhouette or a Dell
it's
something.
It's very short. It's 217 pages, and if
it were a 400-page book, I think it would have been a better book.
Yeah, and I feel like maybe it gets re-released with more or something, because I've seen these and the Irish ones, they're thicker. So I don't know.
Yeah, this is the first of the a trilogy or something.
And her we need to do a trilogy on the show sometime.
Oh, we do. Just do the whole thing.
Yeah,
but none of the ones that we. Oh God, the Warriors Woman was the first of a trilogy.
Yeah, none of those. No. I can't do a Joanna Lindsay trilogy. It will kill us. The house will fall in and kill us.
Joanna Lindsay has tried to murder us in the past.
Yes, exactly. So maybe not that one, but we'll think of a good trilogy to do, and that'll be our next. Yeah, well, not our next one, but we'll be.
We'll do it in the future. Don't make any fucking time-based promises.
So this has been our trial run fun headphone practice episode.
We look so professional.
My pink.
I'm Terry Gross, and this is NPR.
All right, we'll see you next time. Bodice Tipplers is part of the Frolic Network. Find more podcasts you'll love at frolic.media/podcast.